My name is Marlena Whitlock, and I am 74 years old. For most of my life, I believed that being a good person meant keeping your head down, working hard, and loving your family no matter what they did to you. I raised 3 children in a small house on the edge of Millbrook, a quiet town in upstate New York where everyone knew everyone, and secrets were supposed to stay buried. My husband Gerald passed away 11 years ago, leaving me with a paid-off house, a modest pension, and memories of 42 years together. Some of those memories were beautiful. Others, I had learned to lock away in the dark corners of my mind. I lived alone now. My children had grown and moved on with their lives. My eldest daughter, Corinne, lived 2 hours away in the city with her banker husband and 2 teenagers who barely knew I existed. My son, Trevor, lived in California, running some kind of tech startup that I never quite understood. And my youngest, Felicity, lived right here in Millbrook, just 15 minutes from my house. But I rarely saw her. She was always busy, always had somewhere else to be, always had an excuse why she could not come by for Sunday dinner anymore. The loneliness had become like a second skin. I wore it every day, and most days, I barely noticed it anymore. I filled my time with small things. I tended to my garden, where tomatoes and roses grew side by side. I volunteered at the library on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I went to church on Sundays and sat in the same pew I had sat in for 50 years. I called my children every week, and they answered maybe half the time. When they did answer, the conversations were short and felt like obligations they were checking off a list. But I told myself I was fine. I told myself this was just what happened when you got old. Your children built their own lives, and you became a background character in the story of their happiness. I told myself I should be grateful they were healthy and successful, even if they had no time for me. Before I continue, I want to ask you something. If you are watching this story right now, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button below this video. Tap the like button and turn on your notifications, because I am going to share stories like this one, stories about real people facing real struggles, stories that will make you feel something deep in your heart. And please, drop a comment and tell me where you are watching from. What state? What city? I want to know who is here with me on this journey. Now, let us get back to the story, because what happened next changed everything. It was a Tuesday night in late September. The air had that cool bite that meant autumn was settling in for good. I had gone to bed early, around 9 o'clock, the way I always did. My small bedroom was dark except for the soft glow of the nightlight I kept plugged in near the bathroom door. I had been dreaming about something pleasant, something about Gerald and me walking through a field of wildflowers, when the sound cut through the silence like a knife. My phone was ringing. I opened my eyes, confused and disoriented. The clock on my nightstand read 2:17 in the morning. My heart started pounding. Phone calls in the middle of the night were never good news. They meant accidents, emergencies, death. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, my hands shaking. The screen was too bright, and I squinted at it. The caller ID said, "Unknown number." I almost did not answer it. But something inside me, some instinct I could not name, made me swipe the screen and press the phone to my ear. "Hello?" My voice came out rough and thick with sleep. There was silence on the other end. Not the silence of an empty line, but the silence of someone breathing, someone waiting. "Hello?" I said again, louder this time. "Who is this?" Then I heard it. A voice. Low, urgent, and unfamiliar. "Marlena Whitlock?" "Yes, this is Marlena." "Who is calling?" "Listen to me very carefully," the voice said. It was a woman, maybe in her 30s or 40s, and she sounded terrified. "You do not know me, but I know what is happening. I know what they are planning. You need to run. Right now. Get out of your house. Do not pack anything. Do not call anyone. Just run." My blood turned to ice. "What? What are you talking about? Who is this?" "There is no time to explain," the woman said, her voice rising with panic. They are coming for you. They have been planning this for months. You think you are safe in that house, but you are not. They are going to take everything from you, Marlena. Everything. And if you do not leave right now, you will lose more than your house. You will lose your life. Who? I demanded, my voice shaking. Who is coming? What are you talking about? But the line went dead. I sat there in my bed, the phone still pressed against my ear, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what I had just heard. Was this some kind of prank? A scam? But the woman had known my name. She had known my full name. I looked around my dark bedroom, and for the first time in 11 years, I felt afraid in my own home. The shadows in the corners seemed darker. The silence seemed heavier. Every creak of the old house sounded like footsteps. And then my phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered it, my hand trembling so badly I almost dropped the phone. Hello? You are still there, the woman said, and now she sounded almost angry. Why are you still there? I told you to run. I do not understand, I said, and tears were starting to blur my vision. Please, just tell me what is happening. Tell me who you are. My name does not matter, she said. What matters is that your daughter Felicity and her husband are on their way to your house right now. And when they get there, Marlena, you are going to wish you had listened to me. I dropped the phone onto my bed like it had burned my hand. My whole body was shaking now, not just my hands. Felicity. My baby girl. The woman on the phone had said Felicity was coming here. But why would that be a threat? Why would someone warn me to run from my own daughter? I sat there in the darkness, trying to slow my breathing, trying to think clearly. But my mind kept going back to the past few months, to all the little things I had noticed but chosen to ignore. The way Felicity had started asking questions about my finances. The way she had offered, so sweetly, to help me organize my paperwork. The way she had suggested, more than once, that this house was too big for me, too much work, too dangerous for a woman my age living all alone. I had thought she was being caring. Concerned. I had thought, finally, my daughter was paying attention to me again. But now, in the cold darkness of 2:30 in the morning, those memories took on a different shape. A darker shape. Let me tell you about Felicity. When she was born, she was the happiest baby I had ever seen. She smiled at everyone. She laughed at everything. While Corinne had been serious and Trevor had been wild, Felicity had been pure sunshine. I used to call her my little ray of light. Gerald and I had spoiled her, maybe more than we should have. She was our youngest, our surprise baby, born when I was 41 years old and thought I was done having children. She grew up beautiful and charming. Everyone in Millbrook loved her. She was homecoming queen her senior year. She married her high school sweetheart, a boy named Marcus Tyndall, whose family owned the biggest car dealership in the county. I had been so happy for her. I thought she would have the perfect life, the kind of life every mother dreams about for her daughter. But something had changed in Felicity over the years. It happened slowly, so slowly that I did not notice it until it was too late. The sweetness turned sharp. The warmth turned cold. After she married Marcus, she started visiting less and less. When I asked her why, she always had excuses. Marcus needed her. They were busy with friends. They were trying to start a family and did not need the stress of constant visits. Then, about 6 months ago, Gerald's life insurance money finally cleared. It had been tied up in legal problems for years, something about the company going bankrupt. But finally, I received a check for $250,000. It was not a fortune, but it was more money than I had ever seen at one time in my life. I deposited it in my savings account and did not tell anyone except my children. That was when Felicity started coming around again. At first, I was overjoyed. She would stop by every few days, always bringing fresh flowers or cookies from the bakery. She would sit with me at the kitchen table and ask about my day, about my health, about my plans. She seemed genuinely interested in my life for the first time in years. We would laugh together like we used to when she was young. I felt like I had my daughter back. But then the questions started. Have you thought about updating your will, Mom? Do you have all your financial documents in one place? Have you considered what would happen if you got sick and could not take care of yourself? Would it not be easier to sell this big old house and move into a nice apartment, or maybe one of those senior living communities where you would have people around you all the time? I had brushed off the questions. I told her I was fine, that I was healthy, that I planned to stay in this house until they carried me out in a coffin. I had laughed when I said it, trying to make light of her concerns. But Felicity had not laughed. She had gotten a strange look on her face, something cold and calculating that I had never seen before. Then 3 weeks ago, she had brought Marcus with her. They had sat me down in my own living room and presented me with papers. Legal papers. They said it was a power of attorney, just in case something happened to me. They said it would make everything easier, that I would not have to worry about anything if I got sick or confused. They made it sound so reasonable, so caring. But I had said no. Something in my gut told me not to sign those papers. Gerald had always told me to trust my instincts, and that day, my instincts were screaming at me to be careful. Felicity had been furious. She had hidden it well, but I saw the flash of rage in her eyes before she covered it with a smile. She and Marcus had left shortly after, and I had not heard from her since. 3 weeks of silence. Until tonight. I got out of bed, my legs weak and unsteady. I walked to my bedroom window and pulled back the curtain just an inch. The street outside was dark and quiet. No cars. No movement. But as I stood there, watching, I saw headlights turn onto my street from the main road. A car was coming. And it was slowing down as it approached my house. The car pulled into my driveway, and my heart stopped. I recognized it immediately. It was Marcus's black SUV, the expensive one he had bought last year, the one he always bragged about to anyone who would listen. The headlights went dark, but the car just sat there in my driveway, engine still running. I could see 2 figures inside, but I could not make out their faces in the darkness. I stepped back from the window, my mind racing. What were they doing here at 2:30 in the morning? Normal people did not visit their elderly mothers in the middle of the night. Normal people called first. Normal people knocked on the door during daylight hours. These were not normal circumstances. I thought about the woman on the phone. Her voice had been so urgent, so terrified. She had told me to run, not to pack anything, not to call anyone. Just run. But where would I run to? I was 74 years old. I had arthritis in my knees. I could not exactly sprint out the back door and disappear into the night like some action movie hero. But I could hide. Moving as quietly as I could, I grabbed my phone from the bed and shoved it into the pocket of my nightgown. Then I opened my closet door and stepped inside, pulling it almost closed behind me but leaving a small crack so I could see out. My closet smelled like mothballs and old perfume, scents that reminded me of happier times. I pressed myself against the back wall, between my winter coats, and tried to quiet my breathing. I heard the car doors open and close. Then footsteps on my front porch. Quiet, careful footsteps, like they did not want to be heard. I waited for the doorbell to ring, for a knock, for Felicity to call out, "Mom, are you awake?" But there was no doorbell. No knock. Instead, I heard something that made my blood run cold. The sound of a key sliding into my front door lock. Felicity had a key. I had given it to her years ago, back when I trusted her completely, back when I thought she might need it in case of an emergency. I had never thought to ask for it back. Why would I? She was my daughter. The front door opened. I heard it creak the way it always did. Then I heard voices, low and urgent. "Are you sure she is asleep?" That was Marcus. His voice was tight, nervous. "She is always asleep by 9. That was Felicity, and her voice was cold, businesslike. Nothing like the sweet daughter I remembered. We have maybe 20 minutes before the pills wear off. Pills? What pills? My mind flashed back to 3 days ago. Felicity had surprised me with a visit. She had brought me tea and cookies, had sat with me for an hour, chatting about nothing important. I had been so happy to see her. The tea had tasted slightly bitter, but I had drunk it anyway, not wanting to seem ungrateful. Within an hour of her leaving, I had felt exhausted, more tired than I had felt in months. I had gone to bed early that night and slept 12 hours straight. She had drugged me. My own daughter had drugged me. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. Tears were streaming down my face now, hot and silent. I heard them moving through my house, their footsteps creaking on the old wooden floors. They were in the hallway now, getting closer to my bedroom. "Where are the documents?" Marcus asked. "Probably in her desk or her bedroom. We need to find the bank statements, the deed to the house, and the insurance papers. Once we have those, we can move forward with the plan." "And if she wakes up?" There was a pause. A long, terrible pause. "She will not wake up," Felicity said finally. "I gave her enough to keep her out until morning. By the time she realizes what happened, it will be too late. The papers will be signed, the house will be in our name, and she will be on her way to Oak Ridge." Oak Ridge. I knew that name. It was a nursing home on the other side of the county, the kind of place where they put people with dementia and Alzheimer's, people who could not take care of themselves anymore. People who had no say in their own lives. They were going to put me there. They were going to take my house, my money, my freedom. They were going to erase me. "What if she fights it?" Marcus asked. "What if she tells someone?" Felicity laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was the laugh of a stranger. Who is going to believe her? She is a 74-year-old woman living alone. We will just tell everyone she is confused, that she is forgetting things, that she is not capable of making her own decisions anymore. Dr. Pembroke already agreed to sign off on the evaluation. He owes me a favor. They had planned everything. Every detail. Every lie. This was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was a calculated attack, and I was the target. My bedroom door opened, and I watched through the crack in the closet as Felicity and Marcus walked into my room. Felicity went straight to my bed and froze. "Marcus," she said, her voice sharp with panic. "She is not here. The bed is empty." Marcus swore under his breath. "Where is she?" "I do not know. She should be unconscious. The drug should have knocked her out for hours." They both stood there, looking around my bedroom, and I realized with horror that they were going to search the house. They were going to find me. Retry. I held my breath as Felicity and Marcus stood in my bedroom, their heads turning back and forth like predators searching for prey. My heart was pounding so hard I was certain they could hear it. Every muscle in my body was tense, ready to run even though I had nowhere to go. "Check the bathroom," Felicity ordered, and I heard the edge of panic in her voice. This was not part of her plan. I was supposed to be lying in that bed, unconscious and helpless, while they stole my life from me. Marcus walked toward the bathroom, and I watched his shadow cross the floor. I could hear him opening the shower curtain, checking behind the door. "Not here," he said. "She has to be somewhere in the house," Felicity said. "She could not have gone far. I gave her enough sedative to drop a horse. She should barely be able to walk, let alone leave the house." But I had not drunk the tea she brought me 3 days ago. Not all of it. After she left, something had felt wrong about the whole visit. It had felt forced, fake, like she was playing a role. So I had poured most of the tea down the sink when I went to wash the cup. I had felt guilty about it at the time. Now I realized that guilty feeling had saved my life. "Maybe she is downstairs," Marcus suggested. "Maybe she woke up confused and wandered down there." "Then go check," Felicity snapped. "And be quiet." If she is awake and alert enough to hide, we have a problem. Marcus left the room, and I heard his heavy footsteps on the stairs. Felicity stayed in my bedroom, and I watched through the crack as she walked slowly around the room, looking at everything. She opened my nightstand drawer and pulled out my personal papers, my address book, my old photos of Gerald. She rifled through them with no care, no respect, like they were garbage. Then she turned toward the closet. My closet. Time seemed to slow down. I watched her hand reach for the closet door handle, watched her fingers wrap around it. This was it. She was going to find me. And when she did, what would she do? Would she try to force more drugs down my throat? Would she call someone to take me away right now? Would she hurt me? My phone buzzed in my pocket. The sound was quiet, barely a whisper of vibration, but in the dead silence of that moment it might as well have been a fire alarm. Felicity's head snapped toward the closet. Her eyes narrowed. "Mom?" she called out, her voice sweet and fake. "Mom, are you in there? Are you okay?" I did not answer. I could not answer. My throat was closed with fear. Felicity yanked the closet door open, and suddenly we were face to face. Mother and daughter. But the woman staring at me with cold, hard eyes was not the child I had raised. She was a stranger wearing my daughter's face. "Well," Felicity said quietly. "This is unfortunate." I tried to push past her, tried to run, but she grabbed my arm with surprising strength. "Let go of me," I said, my voice shaking. "Get out of my house." "Your house?" Felicity laughed, that same cruel laugh I had heard earlier. "This is not going to be your house much longer, Mother. In fact, after tonight, you will not own anything anymore. Not this house, not your money, not even your own decisions." "I will call the police," I said, reaching for my phone. But Felicity was faster. She snatched the phone from my hand and threw it across the room. It hit the wall and shattered, pieces of glass and plastic scattering across the floor. "No," she said calmly. "You will not." I heard Marcus coming back up the stairs. "She is not downstairs," he called out. Then he appeared in the doorway and saw me standing there with Felicity's hand wrapped around my arm. "Oh. You found her." "I found her," Felicity said. "And now we have a new problem. She is awake and alert. She knows what we are doing." Marcus ran his hand through his hair, looking nervous. "So what do we do now?" "We move to Plan B," Felicity said. She looked at me with those cold eyes, and I saw no love there, no daughter, no humanity. "We take her to Oak Ridge tonight. Right now. We will tell them she had a mental breakdown, that she was found wandering confused in her nightgown, that she is a danger to herself. Dr. Pembroke is on call tonight. He will sign the papers." "No," I said, my voice stronger now. "I am not going anywhere with you. You are not my daughter anymore. I do not know what you have become, but you are not the child I raised." Felicity's face twisted with anger. "The child you raised? You mean the child you neglected? The child who always came second to Corinne and Trevor? The child who had to beg for your attention while you fawned over the other two?" Her words hit me like a slap. "That is not true. I loved you. I loved all of you equally. You loved us equally," she mocked. "Do you know how many times I heard that lie growing up? Meanwhile, Corinne got to go to the expensive college. Trevor got the new car. And what did I get? Hand-me-downs and excuses about money being tight. Well, guess what, Mom? Money is not tight anymore. You have Gerald's insurance money sitting in the bank, and I am going to make sure I get what I deserve." Before I could respond, before I could tell her that I had helped her too, that I had paid for her wedding, that I had always been there when she needed me, I heard something that changed everything. A knock on the front door. We all froze. It was almost 3 in the morning. No one knocked on doors at 3 in the morning. The knock came again, louder this time. Then a woman's voice called out, "Mrs. Whitlock?" Are you in there? This is Deputy Sheriff Catherine Hayes. I received a call about a disturbance at this address. Marcus's face went white. Felicity's grip on my arm loosened just enough. And in that moment, I did the only thing I could do. I screamed as loud as I could. Help. I am up here. Please help me. Felicity's hand clamped over my mouth before I could scream again. Her fingers dug into my cheeks, hard enough to bruise. Shut up, she hissed in my ear. Shut up right now or I swear to God, Mother, you will regret it. But it was too late. The deputy had heard me. I heard her footsteps on the front porch, heavy and quick. Then her voice, louder now, with authority behind it. Mrs. Whitlock, I am coming in. The door is unlocked. Marcus looked at Felicity with panic in his eyes. What do we do? Felicity released me and took a step back. Her face transformed in an instant. The cold, calculating expression melted away, replaced by concern and worry. It was like watching an actress step into character. Follow my lead, she whispered to Marcus. Then she turned toward the bedroom door and called down the stairs, her voice trembling and sweet. We are up here, officer. Thank goodness you came. My mother, she is having one of her episodes again. I heard the deputy climbing the stairs, her boots heavy on each step. When she appeared in the doorway, I saw a woman in her mid-30s, tall and solid, with sharp brown eyes that took in everything. She looked at me first, standing there in my nightgown, my face red where Felicity had grabbed me. Then she looked at Felicity and Marcus. What is going on here? Deputy Hayes asked. Felicity rushed forward, tears suddenly streaming down her face. Real tears. Or maybe she was just that good at faking them. Officer, thank you so much for coming. I got a call from my mother about an hour ago. She sounded confused and scared. She said someone was trying to break into her house. My husband and I drove over immediately to check on her, and when we got here, we found her hiding in her closet, terrified. We think she might be having some kind of mental health crisis. That is a lie, I said, my voice shaking with rage. That is a complete lie. I did not call her. They broke in here with a key I gave them years ago. They have been drugging me. They are trying to steal my house and my money and put me in a nursing home against my will. Deputy Hayes looked between us, her expression unreadable. Mrs. Whitlock, did you call 911 tonight? No, I said. But someone called me. A woman. She warned me that Felicity and Marcus were coming. She told me to run. Mom, Felicity said, her voice dripping with false concern, there was no woman. No one called you. Look, your phone is broken. She pointed to the shattered phone on the floor. You dropped it during your episode. You have been so confused lately. Last week you called me 3 times asking where Dad was. Officer, my father has been dead for 11 years. I never called asking about Gerald, I said. She is lying. She is lying about everything. Marcus stepped forward, putting on his own show. Officer, we are really worried about her. She has not been herself for months now. We have been trying to get her to see a doctor, but she refuses. We think she might have early dementia. We only came here tonight because we were scared she might hurt herself. I looked at Deputy Hayes, pleading with my eyes. Please. Please, you have to believe me. They are trying to take everything from me. They brought legal papers 3 weeks ago trying to get me to sign over power of attorney. When I refused, they stopped talking to me. And now they show up in the middle of the night? Does that seem normal to you? Deputy Hayes was quiet for a long moment. She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something shift in her expression. Mrs. Whitlock, she said carefully, you said someone called to warn you. Do you remember what time that was? Around 2:15, I said. Maybe 2:20. The call came twice. The woman knew my name. She knew what Felicity was planning. And this woman, Deputy Hayes continued, did she identify herself? She said her name did not matter. But she sounded terrified. She kept telling me to run, that they were coming for me. Felicity made a sound of frustration. Officer, with all due respect, my mother is clearly not well. There was no mysterious woman. There was no warning call. She is confused and paranoid and we are just trying to help her. Deputy Hayes held up her hand, silencing Felicity. Actually, Mrs. Tyndall, there was a call. That is why I am here. At 2:37 this morning, a woman called our non-emergency line and reported a potential elder abuse situation at this address. She said that Marlena Whitlock was in immediate danger from family members who were planning to incapacitate her and steal her assets. The caller provided specific details about your vehicle, your arrival time, and your intentions. The room went silent. I watched the color drain from Felicity's face. Marcus took a step backward, his confident facade crumbling. That is ridiculous, Felicity stammered. Who would say something like that? Who would make up such lies? The caller gave her name, Deputy Hayes said, and now her voice was hard, all business. She said her name was Patricia Tyndall. She said she was Marcus Tyndall's mother. She said she could not stand by and watch her son destroy an innocent woman's life, even if it meant destroying her relationship with him. Marcus made a choking sound. My mother? No. No, she would not. She does not even know about any of this. Apparently she does, Deputy Hayes said. And apparently she has been listening to you and your wife plan this for weeks. She recorded several of your conversations. She sent those recordings to our department along with copies of forged legal documents, falsified medical evaluations, and evidence of financial fraud. Mr. Tyndall, Mrs. Tyndall, I am going to need you both to come with me to the station for questioning. Felicity's face twisted with rage. She lunged toward me, and for a moment I saw pure hatred in her eyes. You stupid old woman, she screamed. This was supposed to be easy. You were supposed to just go quietly. Do you have any idea how much money you are sitting on? How much you are wasting by living in this house alone? That money should be mine. I am your daughter. I deserve it. Deputy Hayes stepped between us, her hand on her weapon. Mrs. Tyndall, step back. Now. Marcus grabbed Felicity's arm, pulling her away. Stop it, he hissed. Just stop. It is over. And watching my daughter being led away in handcuffs, watching the life she had built crumble around her, I felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction. Not revenge. Just deep, crushing sadness for the little girl I had loved, and the monster she had chosen to become. After Deputy Hayes led Felicity and Marcus down the stairs and out of my house, I stood in my bedroom shaking. My legs felt weak, like they might give out at any moment. I sank down onto the edge of my bed, the same bed where I should have been sleeping peacefully, the same bed where I would have been drugged and helpless if not for that phone call. Patricia Tyndall. Marcus's mother had saved me. A woman I had only met a handful of times at family gatherings, a woman who had always seemed quiet and reserved, always standing in the background while her husband and son talked loudly about business and cars and money. I had never really gotten to know her. We had exchanged pleasantries at Felicity and Marcus's wedding, had made small talk at Christmas dinners, but nothing more than that. And yet she had risked everything to save me. She had betrayed her own son to protect a woman who was practically a stranger. Deputy Hayes came back up the stairs after about 10 minutes. She found me still sitting on my bed, staring at nothing. Mrs. Whitlock, she said gently, are you all right? Do you need medical attention? I shook my head. No. I am just trying to understand what happened. Why my daughter would do this to me. Where I went wrong raising her. Deputy Hayes sat down next to me on the bed. Up close, I could see the kindness in her eyes, the kind of kindness that came from someone who had seen terrible things and still chose to care. Mrs. Whitlock, you did not do anything wrong. Some people, when they see money or opportunity, they lose sight of what matters. They convince themselves they deserve things that do not belong to them. It is not your fault. She was such a sweet child, I whispered. She used to bring me flowers from the yard. She would draw me pictures and tape them to the refrigerator. She told me she loved me every night before bed. How does that child turn into someone who would drug me and try to lock me away? I do not know, Deputy Hayes said honestly. But I do know this. You are safe now. And Mrs. Tyndall provided us with enough evidence to make sure your daughter and her husband face serious charges. Elder abuse, attempted fraud, conspiracy to commit identity theft, unlawful imprisonment. They are looking at significant prison time if convicted. Prison. My daughter was going to prison. The thought made my chest ache with a pain I could not describe. Even after everything she had tried to do to me, she was still my child. Some part of me still remembered the little girl with the bright smile and the flowers in her hand. There is someone downstairs who wants to see you, Deputy Hayes said. If you are up for it. Who? Patricia Tyndall. She followed us here. She says she needs to explain everything to you. I nodded slowly. Yes. I need to thank her. I need to understand why she did this. Deputy Hayes helped me to my feet and guided me down the stairs. My house felt different now, like it had been violated, like the walls had witnessed something terrible and would never be quite the same. In my living room, sitting on my worn blue couch, was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She stood up when she saw me, and I could see her hands were shaking. Mrs. Whitlock, she said, her voice breaking. I am so sorry. I am so deeply sorry for what my son tried to do to you. I walked over to her and did something that surprised both of us. I hugged her. This woman who had saved my life, this stranger who had shown more courage and integrity than my own daughter. She broke down in my arms, sobbing. I did not know what to do, Patricia said through her tears. I heard them planning it weeks ago. I was visiting their house, and they thought I was outside in the garden. But I came back in to use the bathroom, and I heard them in the kitchen talking about you. About drugging you. About forging your signature on documents. About having a doctor they paid off declare you mentally incompetent. I stood in that hallway and listened to my son plot to destroy your life, and I felt sick to my stomach. We sat down together on the couch. Deputy Hayes stepped back, giving us space but staying close enough to listen. Why did you help me? I asked. You barely know me. And Marcus is your son. That must have been an impossible choice. Patricia wiped her eyes with a tissue from her purse. My mother died 5 years ago. She had dementia, real dementia, and I watched her lose herself piece by piece. But before she got sick, before she forgot who I was, she made me promise something. She made me promise that I would always stand up for what was right, even when it was hard, even when it cost me something. She said that integrity was the only thing no one could take from you unless you gave it away. She looked at me with red, swollen eyes. When I heard what Marcus and Felicity were planning to do to you, I thought about my mother. I thought about how terrified she would have been if someone had tried to take her freedom away when she was still healthy and alert. And I knew I could not let it happen. Even if it meant losing my son. Even if it meant he would never forgive me. You recorded their conversations, I said. She nodded. I bought one of those small recording devices online. I left it in their kitchen, hidden behind some cookbooks. For 2 weeks, I recorded everything. Every cruel word they said about you. Every detail of their plan. And when I had enough evidence, I called the police. Then I called you to warn you. That was you on the phone. Yes. I was so afraid you would not listen. I was afraid you would think it was a prank or a scam. But I had to try. I took her hand in mine. You saved my life, Patricia. You gave up your relationship with your son to save a woman you barely know. I will never be able to repay you for that. She squeezed my hand. You do not owe me anything, Marlena. May I call you Marlena? Please do. You do not owe me anything, she repeated. I just did what any decent person should do. I saw someone in danger, and I helped. That is all. But it was not all. It was everything. Deputy Hayes stayed at my house until the sun came up. Patricia stayed too, sitting with me in my kitchen while I made coffee with trembling hands. We did not talk much. Sometimes there are moments too heavy for words, moments when silence is the only language that makes sense. Patricia held my hand across the kitchen table, and I held hers back, and we watched the darkness outside my window slowly turn to gray, then pink, then gold. At 7 in the morning, my phone rang. Not my broken phone upstairs, but the old landline I kept in the kitchen, the one hardly anyone called anymore. I picked it up, expecting it to be the police station or maybe a reporter who had somehow already heard about what happened. Mom? It was Corinne. My oldest daughter. Her voice sounded frantic. Mom, what is going on? I just got a call from the police saying Felicity was arrested. They said something about elder abuse and fraud. Please tell me this is some kind of mistake. I closed my eyes. Of course Felicity had Corinne listed as an emergency contact. Of course the police had called her. It is not a mistake, Corinne. Your sister tried to have me committed to a nursing home so she could steal my house and my money. There was a long silence on the other end. Then Corinne said, that cannot be right. Felicity would never do something like that. There has to be some explanation. Maybe you misunderstood what was happening. Maybe you got confused. Those words hit me like a slap. Confused? You think I am confused? Corinne, she drugged me. She broke into my house in the middle of the night with forged legal documents. The police have recordings of her planning the whole thing. This is not confusion. This is your sister trying to destroy my life. Mom, I am just saying maybe things are not as clear as you think. Felicity has been worried about you living alone in that big house. Maybe she was just trying to help and it got misunderstood. I felt something break inside me. Do you hear yourself right now? Your sister committed crimes against me. She was going to take everything from me. And your first instinct is to defend her and suggest I am too confused to understand what happened to me? Corinne's voice got defensive. I am not saying that. I am just saying we should hear her side before we jump to conclusions. Felicity is family. We do not just turn our backs on family. She turned her back on me, I said, my voice rising. She looked me in the eyes and told me I was going to lose everything. She said I deserved it because I never gave her enough when she was growing up. She has been planning this for months, Corinne. Months. And you want me to hear her side? I will come up there, Corinne said. I will drive up today and we can figure this out together. I am sure there is a way to fix this without destroying the family. The family was destroyed the moment your sister decided I was worth more to her as a paycheck than as a mother, I said. But yes, come up here. Come see the evidence for yourself. Maybe then you will believe me. I hung up the phone before she could respond. My hands were shaking so hard I had to set down my coffee cup before I dropped it. Patricia was watching me with sad, knowing eyes. Your other daughter does not believe you, she said quietly. No. She thinks I am a confused old woman who misunderstood Felicity's good intentions. I am sorry. Do not be. I should have expected it. Corinne and Felicity were always close. They had their own little bond, their own secrets. I was always on the outside of it. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Funny how you can raise children under the same roof, love them all the same, and they still turn out to see you so differently. Deputy Hayes, who had been standing quietly by the door, spoke up. Mrs. Whitlock, I need to let you know that this case is going to get complicated. Your daughter will likely claim that she was acting in your best interest, that she was concerned about your mental health. Her lawyer will try to paint you as an unreliable witness. You need to be prepared for that. I understand, I said. You should also know that the media might pick up on this story. Elder abuse cases involving family members tend to attract attention. You might get reporters knocking on your door. That thought made me feel sick. My private pain, my family's dysfunction, splashed across newspapers and television screens for everyone to see. What should I do? You do not have to talk to anyone if you do not want to. You can refer them to the police department or to a lawyer. Speaking of which, you might want to consider getting your own attorney. Someone to protect your interests and make sure your assets are secured. I nodded, feeling overwhelmed. Yesterday my biggest worry had been whether my tomato plants needed watering. Today I needed a lawyer to protect myself from my own daughter. My phone rang again. This time it was my son, Trevor, calling from California. I answered it, bracing myself for another version of Curran's disbelief. "Mom," Trevor said, and his voice was tight with anger. "I just heard what happened. Are you okay? Did that witch hurt you?" I almost dropped the phone. "Trevor? I am booking a flight right now. I will be there by tonight. And Mom, I want you to know something. I believe you. I believe every word. Felicity has always been capable of this kind of thing. I have seen how she operates. I just never thought she would turn it on you." Tears flooded my eyes. Someone believed me. One of my children actually believed me without question, without hesitation. "You do not have to come all the way out here." "Yes, I do. You are my mother. And no one, not even my sister, gets to treat you like this. I am going to make sure she pays for what she tried to do." After I hung up with Trevor, I sat at my kitchen table and cried. Not sad tears, exactly. Something more complicated than that. Relief, maybe. Grief. Gratitude. Fear about what was coming next. Patricia made me breakfast. Scrambled eggs and toast, simple and warm. We ate together in silence while Deputy Hayes made phone calls and took notes. And for the first time since the phone rang in the middle of the night, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I was going to survive this. But surviving and healing were two very different things. Trevor arrived that evening, bursting through my front door like a storm. He was 39 years old now, tall and lean like his father had been, with Gerald's same dark hair and serious eyes. He pulled me into a hug so tight I could barely breathe, and I felt his whole body shaking. "Mom," he whispered into my hair. "I am so sorry. I should have been paying more attention. I should have known something was wrong." "You live across the country," I said, pulling back to look at his face. "How could you have known?" "I could have called more. Visited more. Been more present in your life." His jaw clenched. "Where is she? Where is Felicity?" "Still at the police station, I think. Or maybe they moved her to county jail. I am not sure. Deputy Hayes said they were processing the charges." Trevor ran his hand through his hair, a gesture so like his father it made my heart ache. "Good. I hope they throw the book at her. I hope she rots in a cell for what she tried to do to you." His anger was fierce and protective, but it also scared me a little. This was his sister he was talking about, no matter what she had done. "Trevor, I know you are upset, but nothing, Mom. She drugged you. She planned to have you locked up in a nursing home against your will. She was going to steal everything you and Dad worked for your entire lives. There is no but. There is no excuse. She is a criminal, and she deserves to be treated like one." Patricia, who had been sitting quietly in the corner of my living room, spoke up. "Your brother is right, Marlena. What Felicity did was not a mistake or a misunderstanding. It was calculated, cruel, and illegal. You cannot let guilt or love make you minimize that." Before I could respond, there was a knock at the door. Trevor opened it, and Corinne walked in. She looked exactly as I remembered from her last visit 6 months ago. Perfectly styled blonde hair, expensive clothes, diamond earrings that probably cost more than my car. She took one look at Trevor and her expression hardened. "Of course you are here," she said coldly. "Always ready to turn against family." Turn against family? Trevor's voice rose. Felicity is the one who turned against family. She tried to destroy Mom. Corinne walked past him and came to stand in front of me. Mom, I need you to tell me exactly what happened. And I need you to be honest with me about whether you have been feeling confused lately, or forgetful, or having trouble managing things on your own. I stood up, anger giving me strength. I am not confused, Corinne. I am not forgetful. I manage my life just fine. What I am is the victim of a crime committed by your sister. But how do you know that is what it was? Corinne insisted. Maybe Felicity really was worried about you. Maybe she was trying to help and just went about it the wrong way. There is no right way to drug someone, Trevor said. There is no right way to forge documents and plan to have someone committed when they are perfectly healthy. Corinne turned on him. You do not know what it has been like. You live in California. You have not been here. You have not seen Mom aging, struggling, being alone in this big house. At least Felicity was trying to do something. She was trying to steal from Mom, Trevor shot back. That is what she was trying to do. Wake up, Corinne. Stop defending her. Stop fighting, I said, my voice cutting through their argument. Both of you, just stop. This is exactly what I did not want. This family tearing itself apart. Corinne's eyes filled with tears. Then drop the charges, Mom. Tell the police this was all a misunderstanding. We can work this out as a family. We do not need the courts involved. We do not need lawyers and trials and people judging us. I stared at my oldest daughter, this woman I had raised, and realized with horrible clarity that she did not care about what was right. She cared about appearances. She cared about protecting the family reputation. She cared about avoiding scandal. No, I said quietly. What? No. I will not drop the charges. Your sister committed crimes against me. She looked me in the eyes and told me she was going to take everything from me. She said I deserved it. And you know what the worst part is, Corinne? She planned it. For months, she planned how to destroy my life. That is not a misunderstanding. That is evil. Corinne's face went pale, then red. If you do this, if you press charges against Felicity, you will lose me too. I will not stand by and watch you send my sister to prison. I will not participate in this family's destruction. The words hung in the air like a threat. Like an ultimatum. Choose between justice and me. I looked at this daughter, this child I had carried and birthed and raised, and I felt something inside me let go. A weight I had been carrying for years without even knowing it. The weight of trying to please everyone, trying to keep everyone happy, trying to be the glue that held this family together even when the pieces did not want to stay stuck. Then go, I said. Corinne's eyes widened. What? If you cannot support me, if you cannot believe me, if you are going to stand with the person who tried to destroy me, then go. Leave. I will not beg you to stay. I will not apologize for protecting myself. And I will not sacrifice my safety and my future to keep you comfortable. For a long moment, Corinne just stared at me. Then she picked up her purse, turned on her expensive heels, and walked out of my house without another word. The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like finality. Trevor came and put his arm around my shoulders. You did the right thing, Mom. Then why does it feel so awful? Because loving people who hurt you does not stop just because they hurt you, Patricia said quietly from her corner. Believe me, I know. I looked at her, this woman who had given up her son to save me. How do you do it? How do you live with that choice? She smiled sadly. One day at a time. And by remembering that choosing right over easy is always worth it, even when it breaks your heart. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of my life, and that was saying something considering I had already buried a husband and survived cancer twice. The police investigation moved forward quickly thanks to Patricia's recordings. I had to listen to them, sitting in a small room at the police station with Trevor on one side and a detective on the other. Hearing my daughter's voice on those recordings, hearing the cold calculation in her words, hearing her laugh about how easy it would be to convince people I was senile, it broke something in me that I do not think will ever fully heal. The newspapers picked up the story within days. Local woman charged in elder abuse plot, read the headline in the Millbrook Gazette. Someone must have leaked details to the press because the article knew things that should have been confidential. It talked about the forged documents, the bribed doctor, the planned theft. It mentioned that Marcus's own mother had turned them in. My phone, the new one Trevor bought me to replace the one Felicity had smashed, rang constantly. Reporters wanted interviews. Old friends from church called, some to offer support, others fishing for gossip they could share over coffee. I stopped answering after the first few days. I let Trevor screen everything. The hardest part was walking into town. Millbrook was small enough that everyone knew everyone's business. When I went to the grocery store, people stared. Some whispered behind their hands. Mrs. Henderson from the garden club crossed the street to avoid talking to me. I heard the rumors through Trevor, who heard them from locals at the diner. Some people said I must have done something to make Felicity so desperate. Others said I was probably exaggerating what happened. A few brave souls suggested that maybe Felicity had been right to worry about me living alone, that maybe I really was losing my mind and just did not realize it. But there were good people too. Reverend Thomas from my church came by with a casserole and sat with me for 2 hours, just listening. My neighbor, old Mr. Patterson, who was 86 and sharp as a knife, left a note in my mailbox that said, "Stay strong. Family is not always blood. Sometimes it is just the people who show up." That note made me cry for an hour. Dr. Pembroke, the physician who had agreed to sign off on declaring me mentally incompetent, was arrested 4 days after Felicity. Turned out he had been taking bribes from several families to help them gain control of elderly relatives' finances. The medical board suspended his license. His arrest made bigger news than mine had. Suddenly, people started to realize that maybe, just maybe, I had been telling the truth all along. Patricia came to visit me almost every day. We would sit in my kitchen or on my back porch, drinking tea and talking about everything and nothing. She told me about her life, about her marriage to a man who had been more interested in business than family, about watching Marcus grow up entitled and spoiled because his father gave him everything without teaching him to value anything. "I blame myself," she said one afternoon as we sat watching the leaves fall from my oak tree. "I saw what my husband was doing to Marcus. I saw how he was raising our son to believe money was the most important thing in the world. But I did not stand up to him. I stayed quiet. I let it happen. You cannot blame yourself for the choices your adult son made," I told her. "Can you not blame yourself for Felicity?" Her question hit home. I had been blaming myself every day. Wondering what I had done wrong, where I had failed as a mother. "I do not know how to stop," I admitted. "Neither do I," Patricia said. "But maybe we can learn together." Trevor stayed for 2 weeks before he had to get back to California for work. Before he left, he sat me down and had a serious conversation. "Mom, I want you to consider moving out to California. Come live near me. I have a guest house on my property. It is small, but it is yours if you want it. You could start fresh somewhere where no one knows this story." I thought about it. I really did. The idea of leaving Millbrook, leaving behind the stairs and whispers and broken family, was tempting. But this was my home. Gerald and I had built our life here. My garden was here. My memories were here. Running away would feel like letting Felicity win. "I appreciate the offer," I told Trevor. "But I am staying. This is my home. I will not let anyone take it from me." He hugged me tight. "You are stronger than I ever gave you credit for, Mom." On the day of Felicity's arraignment, I sat in the courtroom with Trevor beside me and Patricia behind us. Felicity was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, her face pale and drawn. When her eyes met mine across the courtroom, I expected to see remorse. Regret. Some sign of the daughter I had raised. But there was nothing. Just cold emptiness. Marcus was arraigned separately. His father, a big-shot lawyer, had hired an expensive defense team. They were already working on a plea deal. But Felicity's court-appointed attorney looked overwhelmed and unprepared. The judge read the charges. Attempted elder abuse. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Attempted identity theft. Unlawful restraint. Each charge felt like a hammer blow. My daughter, my baby girl, was facing years in prison. The prosecutor asked for bail to be denied, arguing that Felicity was a flight risk and a danger to me. Felicity's attorney argued that she had no prior record, that she had strong ties to the community, that she posed no threat. The judge looked at Felicity for a long time. Then he said, "Bail is set at $500,000. If you make bail, you are to have no contact with the victim, Marlena Whitlock. No phone calls, no letters, no third-party communication. If you violate this order, bail will be revoked immediately. Do you understand?" Felicity nodded numbly. As they led her out of the courtroom, she turned and looked at me one last time. And in that look, I finally saw something. Not remorse, not regret, but rage. Pure, burning rage that I had not gone along with her plan. That I had fought back. That I had won. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Trevor shielded me, pushing through the crowd to get to his rental car. I heard someone shout, "Mrs. Whitlock, how does it feel to send your own daughter to prison?" I did not answer. I could not answer. That night, alone in my house with the new locks Trevor had installed, I sat in Gerald's old chair and cried. Not for Felicity, not anymore. I cried for the family I thought I had. I cried for the daughter who had never really existed, the sweet child who had been a mask hiding something darker underneath. And then I dried my tears, made myself a cup of tea, and started planning my future. Because I was 74 years old, and I had just fought the hardest battle of my life. And I had won. 6 months passed like a slow river, carrying away the old pieces of my life and leaving something new in their place. Spring came to Millbrook, bringing with it cherry blossoms and the kind of sunshine that makes you believe in new beginnings. I stood in my garden, hands deep in the soil, planting tomatoes just like I had done every April for the past 40 years. But I was not the same woman who had planted them last year. Felicity took a plea deal in March. Her expensive lawyer, paid for by Marcus's father, managed to negotiate down some of the charges. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 18 months. Marcus got 2 years. The judge gave them both a lecture about betraying family trust that made the courtroom go silent. I sat through the entire sentencing hearing with Trevor on one side and Patricia on the other. When it was over, when they led Felicity away in handcuffs, I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not sadness. Just empty relief that it was finally over. Corinne never came back. She sent me one letter, 3 weeks after the sentencing. In it, she said she could not forgive me for what I had done to Felicity, that I had destroyed our family, that I had chosen revenge over love. I read that letter once, then put it in a drawer and never looked at it again. Some bridges, once burned, are not meant to be rebuilt. But other bridges, unexpected ones, grew strong. Patricia became my closest friend. We had coffee together every Tuesday morning at the diner on Main Street. We took walks through the park. We laughed about getting old, about our aching knees and our stubborn independence. She told me once that losing Marcus had been the hardest thing she ever did, but that she slept better at night knowing she had done the right thing. I understood exactly what she meant. Trevor called me every Sunday without fail. Sometimes we talked for 10 minutes, sometimes for 2 hours. He told me about his life in California, about his work, about the woman he had started dating who he thought might be the one. He asked about my life, really asked, really listened. And slowly, carefully, we built something we had never quite had before. A real relationship. Not just mother and son by blood, but friends by choice. The town of Millbrook changed its mind about me too, gradually. When people realized that Dr. Pembroke had been running a scheme that affected 7 other families, when they understood that I had not been a crazy old woman but a victim of a calculated crime, the whispers stopped. Mrs. Henderson from the garden club left a basket of muffins on my porch with an apology note. Reverend Thomas asked me to speak at church about elder abuse awareness. I said yes. Standing in front of that congregation, looking at faces I had known for decades, I told my story. Not for sympathy, but so that other people would know the warning signs. So that other elderly folks living alone would understand they were not being paranoid if family members suddenly became overly interested in their finances. So that other Patricia Tyndalls out there would have the courage to speak up when they saw something wrong. After I spoke, 3 other people came forward with similar stories. We formed a support group. We met every other Thursday at the library. We called ourselves the Survivors, and we were all over 65, and we had all been targeted by family members who saw us as paychecks instead of people. I kept my house. I kept my money. I kept my independence. But more than that, I kept my dignity. I refused to become bitter. I refused to let what Felicity did turn me into someone hard and suspicious and closed off from the world. Instead, I opened up. I volunteered more. I made new friends. I joined a book club and a quilting circle. I started taking painting classes at the community center. On my 75th birthday, Trevor flew out to visit me. Patricia threw me a party in my backyard. 30 people showed up, most of them new friends I had made in the past 6 months. We ate cake and laughed and watched the sunset paint the sky pink and gold. And standing there, surrounded by people who chose to be in my life, who valued me for who I was and not what I could give them, I realized something profound. Felicity had tried to take everything from me. My home, my money, my freedom, my future. But she had failed. Not because the police stopped her, though they did. Not because Patricia turned her in, though she did. Felicity failed because she underestimated me. She thought I was weak, forgettable, disposable. She thought being old meant being helpless. She was wrong. I was stronger at 75 than I had ever been. I had survived grief, cancer, betrayal, and attempted theft of everything I held dear. And I was still here. Still standing. Still planting tomatoes and drinking coffee with friends and planning for tomorrow. The phone call that woke me that night 6 months ago had been terrifying. But it had also been the beginning of something I never expected. The beginning of me finally understanding my own worth. The beginning of me learning that love should never require you to sacrifice your safety. The beginning of me discovering that family is not always about blood. Sometimes it is about the people who show up when everything falls apart. Patricia showed up. Trevor showed up. Complete strangers from my new support group showed up. And together, we built something better than what I had lost. As the sun set on my 75th birthday, as my new friends sang happy birthday and Trevor hugged me tight, I thought about Felicity in her prison cell. I hoped she would find redemption someday. I hoped she would understand what she had done and find a way to become better. But whether she did or not, I was moving forward. Because I was Marlena Whitlock. I was 75 years old. And I was not done living yet. Not by a long shot. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think about the elderly people in your own life, I hope you will hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And please, drop a comment below telling me what you thought. Did Marlena do the right thing? Have you ever had to make an impossible choice between family and doing what was right? I want to hear from you. Your stories matter. Your voice matters. And remember, no matter how old you are, no matter what battles you are facing, you are stronger than you know. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next story.